Hello, all. Welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Coolbaugh, and I have with me today a very special guest, Dirk Ashton. Dirk, how are you today?
I'm doing much better now that I'm doing this podcast, and I've had plenty of coffee.
Oh, that's fair. I feel like podcasts and coffees are always how I like to start the day, so I definitely understand that.
Yep.
So, Dirk, I always start off with asking people, and I know any of our listeners, we always, like I said, plug your guys' podcast, Wizards, Warriors, and Words. If you guys have not listened to their podcast yet, it's with Dirk Ashton, Jed Hearn, Michael R. Fletcher, who we had on previous episode, two before this, and then Jed Hearn. They all host it. They have amazing authors, writers, artists like Felix Ortiz go on there. There's always gems in there that you'll find, and it's always a fun time. I listen to it in the morning on the way to work or on my way home. So.
And
Please
this guy.
Yeah, and this guy. So we always
I just got this yesterday. It's beautiful.
Oh man, that is awesome.
It's another Felix cover.
Oh yeah. I literally said Mark and I were talking about that the other day. I was like, I really want a print of that. Like really, that and Mark's Blood of the Spear, I think are my two favorite that Felix has done, which is saying a lot because like the last 10 he's done has just been some of my favorite book covers. He gets that really classic feel in there with a newer style, and he really,
and he can do well. He can do so many different styles too.
Yeah.
And he's fast. I hate people like that.
They make us look bad, right?
Oh man,
we love you, Felix, but we're also really jealous. So
yeah.
Well, Dirk, I always ask people, what has your writing journey been like up until this point?
Whew, kind of crazy.
Yeah,
I didn't actually start writing books until I was like 51. Because I had worked in the film business and then was a professor full-time tenure track for years and just didn't have time. I didn't even have time to read much for a long time. And I just I just decided to start. I finally had the time, so I just started because I went teaching full time, and I just decided I'm going to give this. And I was reading a lot, and I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. I had written a lot of screenplays, and I've written some short stories and stuff like that just for fun. But the screenplays I wrote because that's kind of one of the things I really wanted to do when I lived in Los Angeles, but I always have wanted to write a novel, and I've had these weird ideas floating around for decades, really. And I'm a big mythology geek, always have been. So I just started messing around, taking notes, and just writing really slowly. And after I wrote 2 books, had some friends read them, cut it down to 1 book. So like 3.5 years later, Paternus, I decided, I did a lot of research and looked back and forth and did some pros and cons lists and decided to just try the self-pub. And I just totally lucked out. I mean, honestly, I completely lucked out in that I finished the book and got the manuscript into the SPFBO, Mark Lawrence's science or self-published fantasy blog off thing. And I was like entrant. They cut it off at 300, and I was like entrant 298.
Oh wow.
9 of 300, and ended up getting to be a finalist and placing 3rd. That takes many months. So that's how I started getting to know everyone, that and going to some little conferences, being a nobody. And now I'm kind of still a nobody, but a little bit higher on the nobody scale.
I would think our audience would say otherwise. Every time I said who I had coming on, they said the opposite. So he's also humble, guys.
It's been crazy, and I'm still amazed when people say they like it, or I find out people are actually reading those books. And I can't believe that it's now been, over a year since book 3 came out. it's just crazy. It came out last July, end of last July, I think, or July 2020. This is 2021, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so. It's been like 3 years. 2020 took 3 years. So.
I know.
This one already feels like it's like 2 years. We've only been in school for a month. I'm like, it already feels like 3 school years.
And and even launching the third book in the midst of COVID didn't seem to hurt it any. I mean,
oh no, I saw you
I
everywhere.
guess,
Everywhere on Twitter.
I guess because it was the third book. Now I can't imagine what it would have been like trying to launch a first book.
Yeah.
In that period, but I don't know how that went for some folks. But it's just there are so many books out there. To break through all the noise is really rare. So I just got super lucky early on, and just have had fantastic people that have helped me along the way. So yeah, no, it's been great.
What's so interesting, because like I said, like I saw you pop up all of a sudden on my Twitter, and then like from your account, from somebody like retweeted, and I was like, oh, and it was book 3, and I was like, okay, like what is this? So then I went and looked at the blurb, and I was like, okay, and then I went and saw Paternus, and I was like, yeah. So I was like, follow, and then the next thing I know, it was like there were just so many people, and it was probably I don't think I've seen anybody's trilogy shared that much like ever on Twitter. And
Really?
yeah, I mean, it was like your books forever. It was either Paternus, Rise of the Gods. This is number 2, right? Which one's book 2? Sorry.
Rise of Gods is number 1.
Number 1.
When I originally put it out, it was just called Paternus, and there was no series name really.
Gotcha.
And then when I rebranded and got the new cover, we made it the Paternus Trilogy, and I added the Rise of Gods to the first title.
Gotcha. Okay.
Rise of Gods was 1. Wrath of Gods is number 2. And
Wrath of Gods.
Yeah, and War of Gods is number 3. Yeah.
And I loved your rebranding too, because like I was seeing them, and I really liked them right off the bat. But then I don't know, there was just something about that. And I know you talked about it recently on your guys' podcast. That Paternus cover is just crazy cool.
It made a huge difference in sales. Like, immediately. I loved the first cover, but it didn't say the right thing about the book.
Yeah.
The books. So yeah, and I got so lucky getting John Anthony DiGiovanni and Sean King together to do the art and the design. It's just, yeah.
It's definitely one of my top favorite, like 5 favorite covers, for sure.
Oh wow.
And I actually I have your blurb here too, which is actually, I kind of went back into my notes, and I went back and found exactly what attracted me to it. So I just want to mention that real quick.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so, even myths have legends, and not all legends are myth. The gods of myth, monsters of legends, heroes and villains of lore. They're real, and they're coming back to finish a war that's been waged since the dawn of time. Now, if anybody in our audience...
That's the one that's up on the website. Yeah.
Yep. If anybody in our audience needs more than that to buy your book, and that in the cover, and I just felt that when I went and saw the cover, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I went and saw that blurb, and I was instantly sold. And I feel like, you did what we were just talking about a couple weeks ago with a couple of authors, actually. Mallory Kuhn was one of them, trying to find a good cover and a good, good blurb just to instantly advertise the book, and I think you guys just talked about it. I think maybe you mentioned in last week's episodes for you guys how some people, do a blurb, and other people like do the blurb, but then write like half the book in the, in the Amazon blurb.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't like that. Yeah. And I like short and sweet. And I just like how you wrote yours, because that instantly hooked me. So I was kind of curious.
The one on Amazon is a little longer.
Yeah.
But it's still shorter than most. I'm a fan of short descriptions. Try to get their attention right off the bat. I learned along the way, because I wasn't sure this was urban fantasy, so I never called it that. And I didn't do a this meets that, because I thought that was cheesy. But everyone does it. And finally,
Everyone.
finally, my buddies are like, well, you have to. You have to do that, and you need to do this. You need to say that it's what it is, because people want to know. And I'm like, okay. And that made a huge difference too. It just telling them what it is, doing a this meets that, you know, and people just they react to that. They immediately know what they're getting into to a certain extent, and that's what folks want. And then I just I just I never read the long ones.
Yeah,
So
no.
I write mine, and but a lot of super successful authors use those.
Yep.
So I can't say that they're not the right thing to do. I just personally don't ever read past the first paragraph, and
Oh, for sure.
maybe skip down to the last paragraph, and then maybe go look at some reviews. But usually everything I have comes as a recommendation. So
Yeah.
I really or people want me to read maybe something still to me that people ask that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so my TBR is so long. My
Oh, I
2
hear
minute
that. Mine's a mountain. It's not a
mountain.
pile anymore.
Yeah, but
Or
so
a
I
mountain
like,
range.
yeah, I like to have short, punchy descriptions. Um, and then people can go read reviews if they want more information. So yeah, my first one I think is the longest one. The second one is the shortest one, and the third one is kind of in between those two. If you look at the Amazon descriptions, that on the pages, I say description because that's what that box is called in
Yeah, yeah.
KDP when you enter that information.
Well, I read a lot of blurbs, and especially I try and practice now so that when I'm done with my books, I don't have to sit there and then try. So I'm trying to practice now, and that was one that always has stuck out to me. And I feel like when we talk about blurbs, and actually Mark and I are gonna kind of do like a co-hosted uh, couple episodes where we talk about blurbs and a couple other things.
Cool.
And that's one I'm actually going to bring up because it's really stuck with me and it sold me immediately. And I really like it because I just personally, a younger friend of mine actually made a really good point. So I'm 34 now and he's like 21, 22. And he said,
Mhm.
because he's read your books and really enjoyed them. And he said, you know what I like so much about him? He's like, and that's what you guys were just saying on your last episode too. That it kind of hit that like Percy Jackson crowd, but they're older now, and they want that feel, but they want more of an adult, urban fantasy. And I'm actually have some similar things. I have a story about a Valkyrie in modern day. She finds out that she's a Valkyrie. And I have some other ones. I'm kind of doing like an Avengers style, like urban fantasy,
Mhm.
where bringing these heroes together and stuff. So I got
See,
some
I
different
I
things.
love that shit. It's
Yeah,
funny.
right.
It's funny
Yeah.
you mentioned that too, because I love Percy Jackson and Michael Scott's Secrets of the Immortal,
Oh.
Nicholas Flamel,
Mm.
or Flamel, and like American Gods is kind of that for grown-ups, but not really. It's kind of a different kind of
Yeah,
story.
it's a different
And
taste, I think.
I had not read American Gods until I had already finished book one. And I was like, oh shit, somebody do this already. But I found myself when I was reading those kinds of books thinking, I want a book like this, but for grown-ups. And so I wrote a book that I had always wanted to write, the way I wanted to write it, and the book that I wanted to read, the book that I wanted to you know to to read basically. and amazingly enough, some other people feel the same way, so that's cool.
More than a few. Yeah, more
Yeah.
than a few. And it's funny because I've been talking to I just like talking to book reviewers on Twitter and I like seeing what they read. I feel like they
Yeah.
always get I don't know, the good authors, not in the new thing, but like they always do have really good suggestions. And I have a couple coming on the podcast the next couple of weeks. And yours has been making the rounds again, with quite a few of them. So that was really good to see. I don't know if you've seen, I've shared them, retweeted on Twitter, but I tweet a lot because I try and retweet a lot of things for people. But yeah, it was really cool to see
So
like
do I.
10 of them,
When I see them, and when I see them,
Yeah.
I try to put them out, not just
Yeah,
mine,
yeah,
but
yeah.
everybody else's too.
Yeah. So I mean, I probably had 10 within the last 3 days, and I just thought, how ironic is that that you're coming on the podcast. So I was like,
That's
keep them
awesome.
coming,
Thank
guys.
you.
So yeah, it was really, really
Yeah.
cool to see. So we're actually totally blanking on Benjamin's last name right now, but he's got his own podcast and book reviewer YouTube, and we had to reschedule because my family's coming into town today. But he's going to come next week on Sunday. And he actually just read and reviewed Paternus actually previously. So we'll be chatting about you a bit next Sunday. So
Don't say anything good. I don't want you ruining my hard-earned reputation.
I will try. That's what Fletcher was saying too. I said, well, you were really helpful and gave, good advice. So I said, we'll have to try and edit the video a bit to, ruin the audio or something.
make you appear as insane as you truly are.
Yeah, exactly. I asked you a little bit privately on Twitter about, your research process and things like that now for Paternus. And you said, you're a mythological fan. And I personally, real quick, like I just was talking with a couple, like Scott Oden about this, because, his books really fall, I think, into that type of fantasy where him and I were talking about creating our own genre within fantasy. So urban fantasy gets urban fantasy, but we really want to create a mythological fantasy like genre within, because I think that's really, it's a totally different style and tone compared to urban fantasy. And I really think it comes down to what the books are about, but also the research. So I'm just really curious you said you had your notes and things before writing Paternus, but how did you research Paternus? Because you have so many, mythological beings and legendary figures. Like I just want to know where, because like I've been trying to research my urban fantasy always trips me up because I like more mythological urban fantasy than the vampires and stuff. And I guess like I talked to a lot of people recently who are in the same boat who also want to write a book like Paternus because they loved yours so much. They really enjoy Scott's books, and I think they're tripped up like me, like where to start.
Frightening. You mean I've inspired people?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
We're gonna have a whole crowd army behind us eventually.
Awesome. I'm scared.
You should be if you know some
No,
of them.
that's cool.
Yeah,
I always read a lot of mythology as a kid. I mean, of course, I got into it first with Norse and Greek and Roman. Being a good Western white kid, I guess, but I very quickly expanded out beyond to get to more obscure European. Really got into Irish folklore, legend, and mythology and then was then expanded out to the Hindu stuff. Is like I love.
Oh yeah,
the Ramayana and the Mahabharata and all the stuff attached to that. And so I had read a whole lot of that stuff, and that's how the germs of ideas had come up. And I had some weird ideas about, and the more I read in myths, the more I saw, similarities and, how, and, I have a PhD in cinema studies. I had to write a dissertation and, I've written quite a bit of stuff, scholarly stuff. So research is part of what we do, right? How to research, how to take the notes. And I'd still go down these insane rabbit holes. And anything that I would find about anything, really, I try to find at least 3 sources that say this about the same thing that are relatively legit. And I have to be honest, I very often will start with something like Wikipedia, but then follow those source links and then do outside searches. And sometimes I would sign out or go into incognito mode and do the searches, because then you get different results.
Yeah.
Because it's not looking at what you normally see or look for. and I had literally hundreds of pages of notes, and I made an enormous spreadsheet with all these tables, like with time frames, and then natural history and disasters and evolution and growth of civilizations, and when certain things started, and then the last few columns are about characters in the book. And I really wanted to have this idea of like kind of a unified field theory, that all the myths could have germinated from one thing. It's like, the UFO folks over here are like, it all came from aliens, right?
Yeah.
And it could have even all been from aliens from one source, and I didn't quite want to do that. So I looked into a lot of the origin myths from different cultures, and just kind of tried to combine a lot of that. And then the hard part was then, as characters would come into my mind that I wanted to be, I would say, well, where are, across these mythologies, where are the characters, the individuals, the gods or whatever, or demons that are similar, right? And there are guardian gods or deities in basically all the mythologies. There's the trickster in all the mythologies. There are many of them. And then it gets even more fun when, because I would do these, and then I do research, and I would actually base characteristics of my characters on these things I found. And I got into the Mesoamerican, a lot of Central and South American, Native American myths, and Polynesian mythologies, and it's just all such fun, and I love it anyway. So
Yeah.
I mean, I spent months just typing up all, and I would cut and pay. I would download and save pictures, images, all that kind of stuff. I did way more than anybody needs to do, way more than anyone needs to do in any book. And then of course I had to figure out, what can they do and can't they not do, a magic system of sorts, I guess. How do they do it? Why are they strong? Why do they live so long? That kind of thing. So yeah, it was just and I, even though I spent way too much time, I'm pretty good at saying, okay, making quick choices. As you got to make choices. The whole secret is you got to make those choices. I am going to use this character, this one, this doesn't work, that doesn't work, this doesn't work. You've got to quickly do that, but you still have to find the stuff to make the choices between. So no, the whole process was a lot of fun, though the last book almost killed me, just trying to wrap up, because I had thrown so many things in those first two books. I had to wrap up so many.
Oh, that Brandon
many
Sanderson or Robert
threads.
Jordan syndrome.
Woo. And that's why I thought the third book would be about 170, 180,000 words. Book one was about 125, book two, 135. And I thought this one, yeah, it's going to be longer. So let's, so 170, 180, and it ended up 235.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it almost killed me, but
Yeah.
I'm still pretty proud of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny that you said that, because somebody just mentioned that the other day. They because I was talking to, I think it was Mark actually, Timony, about this, and because we're discussing doing a reread of The Wheel of Time with my best friend. It's his first time reading it, so we were going to be doing the Discord.
4 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll be finishing it up.
I know, right? And we were talking about well, right now we're doing Malazan, and I think my brain is burnt out from reading. I love it, but like holy
Yeah.
moly, like we've read them within a year. Like
Yeah.
we're on book 7 right now, and my
Oh,
friend's like, let's
wow.
just finish. And I'm like, I was reading other things as well, and now I'm like, why am I so burnt out? And I'm like, well, we've been flying through these books, and
Yeah.
with everything, I'm a teacher, so with everything from work and
Yeah.
everything, it's just like, and then writing, like I'm not going to stop writing or editing,
Yeah.
so like I can't, so
Yeah.
I just haven't read as much. But yeah, we talked
Yeah.
about Brandon Sanderson syndrome, like trying to, because I listened to a really good, Daniel Green actually has a really
Yeah.
great interview with him, talking about finishing up the Wheel of Time. And that's what he said. He was
Yeah.
like, I had all these things, notes for book 6 and 7 that I had to figure out and somehow finish to get to A Memory of Flight. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was just like, I can't even imagine. So yeah, we called it Brandon Sanderson syndrome, trying to
Yeah.
tie all those pieces together. And I
Yeah.
can
And
only imagine.
he
That's a lot
writes
of
some
words.
really complex stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like to do more. I'm more of a Forgotten Realms fan. Those
Yeah.
Dragonlance, like
Yeah.
I prefer that type of fantasy. I like to get into a world because I like to do it after work or before work. We're on the bus to sports games or events, and I like to just read a few pages, and then I like to just get right in. It's harder with a book like Malazan. Like you really have to read and take notes and things. And I think I personally am trying to do that type of thing, like a Forgotten Realms book, but a little bit bigger, because that's what I like to read. But yeah, I definitely feel like I'm a little burnt out on reading this year, and it's been a shame because like Christopher G. Brenning, I've been sharing his Hellborn King, the Hellborn King, and he's actually gonna come on next week. So I'm like, thought I'd be done by now. It's on my phone, which I'm horrible at reading on my phone. If I had the book in front of me, I would have been done by day 3. And I've had so many other things to do, but
Yeah.
it's absolutely amazing. And I feel bad, like Clayton's River of Thieves, I started, and just I've had other like work and stuff, and I'm like, I feel like I'm not
Yeah.
doing certain books justice right now. But
Yeah.
I'm definitely
It's
trying to
so
get
hard. And I'm a really slow reader. So it's just, it's hard. I read every day, but sometimes it's only 30 minutes. Sometimes it's an hour and a half every day at night before I go to bed. But I'm slow. So it takes me, I'm lucky if I can get through 12 or 15 books a year.
yeah.
Really lucky. It's usually more like 9 or 10. And that's just not enough.
Yeah.
It's
And I
not
think
enough. I want more.
I think that's what's really been bumming me out is like, so the last, like, even during grad school, like I got 52, 46. The year before that, I had like 4
Yeah,
jobs. So
that's
I only,
impressive.
yeah, I had like maybe like 32 or 36, but this year I'm literally at like I think 9. I have
Yeah.
probably 5 that I'm halfway through, but I'm just like, I really think finishing my book, like first draft, just like I just adrenaline dumped, or book
Yeah.
dumped or whatever. And then with Malazan, like I read with my friend, but then it's like I have to speed read. So then I feel like it burns me out even more. So I have to try and
Yeah.
figure out. I was just talking actually to Fletcher about this the other day. I have to figure out a better system of reading again. And schedules are all different now. Like I'm teaching almost 8 hours every
Yeah.
day, and it's like usually we
Yeah.
taught 6, so we just don't have enough people. So it's like I'm
Yeah.
just burnt out. But I know ML Spencer is the same way, with
Yeah.
a couple of her tweets and stuff. So
There are a whole lot of people who are teachers.
yeah, I could. And actually, I actually
Right.
didn't know
Yeah.
that Miles Hurt is.
Yeah. A
He's
whole
teaching
lot of
over there in
people.
Australia. Yeah, it's crazy. That's like my
Yeah.
uncle was my great uncle was a history professor in college, and he
Mhm.
was writing novels. And I didn't discover that he wrote certain historical books. He had 1 historical fiction and 5 or 6 other just like historical reference books, and I had no idea. So he actually inspired me to become a history teacher and a teacher because I was going to do the same thing, and I like to, be a professor, but then I ended up, just getting my degree and end up really enjoying it and finding out I
Yeah.
really enjoy working with kids, almost
Yeah.
as much, I think more actually than writing or reading even. It just
Yeah.
was really good, but it's definitely worked out really well because, like holidays, we're usually done by, I'm usually home by 5. Not this season because of volleyball, but usually I'm home by 5, so I hang
Yeah.
out and relax, and then I usually get about 2 hours of writing done per night. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a good profession if you want to try and be an author, I think too, unless you're
Yeah.
during a pandemic, then you have no
Yeah.
brain
And
afterwards.
it's
But
just insanity.
yeah, yeah. Well, I was curious for one of our last questions here. What is your one piece of marketing advice that you can give those writing their first trilogy?
Oof, boy. That's a good question.
You made me think of it the other day when you were talking.
My original, my launch, and early time with the book being out, was very different from most folks. I didn't know much about it. Everybody told me I had to get on Twitter. I needed to get on Instagram. I needed to get on Facebook, get a Facebook page. I needed to get a website. But you also, I was also told, and also do, is you can only do so much,
Yeah.
right? If you're really into Reddit fantasy, make that your main thing.
Okay.
And then, you can mess around with other things. If you're really into Twitter, make that your main thing. And then, if you have time to do, book talk, TikTok, and any of the other ones, and you like and you enjoy it, then do it. But I also know a ton of authors who do extremely well. Better than I do, and they don't do any social media. They might have a Discord, or they might have a private group on Facebook for fans and stuff like that. But some of them don't do any of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or very little of it, and they still make a really, really good living. So the critical part is good cover, good blurb, and learn how to do Amazon advertising, AMS advertising, which is a nightmare, because what works for one author doesn't work for another.
Yeah.
And you get that stuff, you get those things going, and it can work, but AMS has become such a mess because the bids are so high.
Yeah.
And there's so many things going on. It's really hard. And then then you want to know how to cut the spending back. But I would say, it's critical to have a website, even if it's just a one-page free thing that you put together on Wix. Get on Goodreads. Definitely get on Goodreads. I don't spend nearly enough time with Goodreads stuff. And the thing is be part of the, a lot like what you've done, right? Be part of the community. You want to be a fan. You want to be a reader. You want to support other people. And the number one thing, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick. Be helpful.
Yeah.
You won't always have time to do everything that people want you to do. There were periods when I was writing a particular book 3, when I was under the gun for a deadline, when I had to turn down anybody who asked for an interview or for advice on a particular thing if it was going to take too long. And just as apologetic as I could be about it, because I felt terrible, to be honest. I really did. And but everybody's cool about it. And I get, this is not for new authors, but I get requests to read books for maybe a blurb, or just to say something about it, or do a little review all the time. And
it's a lot of work though.
Well, it is. And I'm such a slow reader that I'm like, yeah, I would love to have the book and I'd love to take a look, but it could be a year.
Yeah.
Seriously, before I get to it. I can't just shove everything else aside. And I'm a fan of certain authors, and their books come out. I want to read those, so they can't all be these obligatory reads. I still want to read them. I hate to call it that, but it's an obligated read.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it blows me away, but I'll get ARCs from Tor, and when I get one of those, I want to read it, because the person, one of their senior editors who sends them to me, she knows my taste, and she knows I'll like it, and she's been dead on every time.
Oh, that's awesome.
There have only been a few of those, but there are some authors that their stuff comes out and I need to read it. And then there are friends who recommend something that they just read by a new author, or you should read this other author's book who's new. And so I'll wedge that in there. And then friends have books like a new series that are coming out. Phil Tucker who was in the SPFBO and took second. I took third, and Jonathan French took first when I was in it. And French's books, his come out, they're immediate reads, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I love his books, plus he's a friend. Phil hasn't put out an epic fantasy. He hasn't in years. So he's got an ARC out for his new series, which people should be super excited about.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Because Chronicles of the Black Gate.
Oh, that's cool.
Was his big series.
Yeah.
And it was the first book in that took second. And but he's got a new series coming out, and it's been some years. I'm super excited, and so I've got that. And that's as soon as I get done reading Wisdom of Crowds. Joe Abercrombie's another one. His stuff comes out. I have to read it. Mike Carey is like that too. M.R. Carey. But as soon as I'm done with that, I'm going to read Phil's, and then there is a new author's book that's third on the list right now. But those all three of those have shoved the other books down.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's fun. But I digress. Don't be a dick. That's my that's my number one.
You would think you wouldn't have to say it, but I just can't believe it how many times, somebody will go on, somebody that mutual acquaintance that we have will go on Twitter and be like, please do not do this. And there was one, I'm forgetting, there was one agent, and she's an author, and she does some book reviews, and she literally had a guy who, again, we're all in different time zones usually, and she had somebody where she went to bed at like 11:30, woke up the next day with and she posted it. Usually she doesn't. There's this huge book that this guy wrote, and he was so rude, swore at her, and she was like, okay, well, he was like, I can't believe you don't want this book, and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, I was sleeping. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. She's like, but I definitely know I'm never going to recommend your book. And I have friends that I'm going to tell, and I just couldn't believe that somebody would do that.
It's really important. Don't respond to bad reviews. That's a different thing. I know.
Yeah.
But if you're an author, don't respond to rejections badly. People are busy. Don't respond to bad reviews on Goodreads or anywhere else. Simply don't engage. It's so much better that way, and you can never win. I'm known for posting, and I just enjoyed them so much when Mark Lawrence or Joe Abercrombie would do it. And a bunch of other people. Rob Hayes does it all the time. They're hilarious. But posts like if somebody writes a review where they just hate the book, and
I love Joe Abercrombie.
Go throw it up on Facebook and say yes. But you don't engage directly, and those people never know that you shared the review anyway, and they put it on Goodreads or Amazon. So
Joe's are so funny. I mean, I'll have to check out Rob's. Joe Abercrombie's are so funny. Like, I actually really enjoy reading his, because
you're gonna get bad reviews. Always. Everyone look at any book that you think is like the best book ever and everybody has to love, and you're gonna find reviews. Just click on those 1 stars and 2 stars, and you will find reviews that absolutely trash those books.
Well, I still can't believe I was re-listening to your guys' episode 11, season 2, the bad review game. I think it was the first bad review game, and I still can't believe that somebody DNF'd at 97% for you. Like, just
that one was crazy. That one was crazy. I think that, yeah, that was book 2. They had read book 1 and really liked it, read book 2 and really liked it, and then DNF'd like at the end of book 2 because of one thing that I did. And
I guess it's a compliment.
if they would have read a lot, yeah, I take that as a compliment.
They like that character so much.
Yeah, if they would have read along, they would have seen it was all resolved. But no, couldn't do that. They bailed, but that's, that's fine. People,
Yeah.
I read what I like to read, and there are things I like and things I don't. And I'm a little more of an open-minded reader, though. If something offends the shit out of me, it's actually kind of a thrill.
Oh yeah.
So I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess yeah, you just gotta kind of be cool and be supportive. And I've never asked an author to do, if they wanted a copy of my book, without saying absolutely no strings attached. I don't expect you to actually read it, but if you do, that'd be great. And then I never ask them again. You can't, unless they say, remind me in 1 month, right?
Yeah.
Which does happen sometimes. Then just leave them alone. Never ask again. And what comes in, comes in. What doesn't, doesn't. But I've never asked anyone who I didn't already have some interaction with, beyond just one tweet, right?
Yeah.
Or had met at a con and talked to, and then maybe had some other interaction with. I never cold ask. Cold asks are really, really hard.
Oh yeah.
And if you're on Facebook and you friend an author, and they friend you back, they confirm the friends, don't immediately send them a request to like your page. Wait a couple weeks, have a little interaction, then wait a couple of weeks. Don't immediately invite them to your author group. Author groups are for your friends, not to invite other authors to who you don't know. Authors that you don't know, right? Just, little things. But and then it's just throwing it out there and doing your best to try to, and you can't do everything. I don't do, there are certain kinds of advertising I don't do. I didn't do any Facebook advertising for a long time, until my Trilogy audiobook came out. Actually, last December, I started up some Facebook ads and have been doing that, but I hadn't done them for any of the first 3 books because I just didn't have time.
Yeah, it's its own job. Yeah, like
Yeah, it's
that and
just,
Amazon. Yeah,
yeah, and when
Facebook
you
ads I
get,
feel are harder anyways. Like,
and you got to realize that you can't just throw a book out there and hope it does well. That does happen. It's extremely rare. It's
yeah,
rarer than lightning strike,
yeah.
winning the lottery. But it's being self-published is you basically are starting up a small business. So you need to deal with everything that somebody runs a bakery or a coffee shop, right, is dealing with, or an online store, or anything. All of those things you need to be able to take care of, at least to a certain level. I mean, most all of us barely get everything done. Like, my website needs work. Have I gotten to it? I need to get a store up on my website. Have I gotten to it? No, I just haven't. And but the number one most important thing to sell a book is to write the next book in the series. That's always got to be the first priority.
I think all that was really great advice. If you had a lot more than one thing to say, I feel like people should definitely dissect those different things. But yeah, I can't remember. I was talking to somebody a while back. This is probably like last year when I was first getting on. It must have been when I first getting on Twitter for my author account, and they just kind of said the same thing, like don't be a dick. But they also said like, like try to be helpful, more times than you ask for things. And I don't like to ask for things, Like if people, like I just like to help people with things, and
Yeah.
you know, like people like yourself, like I want to see be really successful. I want them, you know, I told Christopher Brennan, he's like, thank you, message you privately, he's like, thank you so much for, you know, sharing my book. And I'm like, it's a great book, you know,
Yeah.
like talk about grim dark fantasy. I think everybody should go and check it out. It's that and Never Die were two of my favorite reads within, I don't even know how many years, probably
Yeah.
within the last 10 years. And I'm almost done with the Hellborn King. Every time Chris does something, I get to a new chapter, it blows my mind. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty good, I think. I'm like, okay, well, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. And, you know, I keep sharing
Yeah.
it because I told him, I was like, I want you to be able to write another book so that
Yeah.
I can get the story. So it's kind of selfish because I want more
Yeah.
to read.
Yeah. Well,
But, you know, at least I'm
yeah.
not like asking for things, I guess. But yeah.
I loved Never Die.
It's so good. I was just thinking about like it's hard too because like doing a
Yeah.
reread, right? Like I
Yeah.
want to get to
And
your books and you know and Mike's and
and
I have Thunder
even on
Heist.
this one, the third one, there's some knucklehead said something good about it.
That's awesome. Oh yeah, that's a great quote too, by the way. I forgot to say that to you a couple weeks ago
Thanks.
when I heard
Thanks.
it. Yeah,
I
talking
love
about it.
that. I can't wait to read this. And I've also got up here two books. Like, remember I said Jonathan French,
Yeah, yeah.
especially his books come out. I need to read them immediately. I have this. The
Oh,
third
okay.
book is out,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
dying to read this. Yeah, I've got these that I get through first, so it
Yeah.
could be a month or two. And I this one I'm sure I can get through in about a night. But Anna Stevens wrote a book for
Oh,
Marvel.
I
For
did not know
Marvel,
that. That
yeah.
sounds
And
awesome. I'm gonna add that
I
one.
love Anna and I love her work. And this is just so exciting to have. I can't
That
imagine
is
having your
cool.
name
Wow.
on a Marvel get through
Yeah.
this quick. And it's actually a book. It's actually, it's not a graphic novel, it's actually a book.
Oh,
So
that is really cool.
I cannot wait. But this I think will be a pretty quick read.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
that's such a cool thing for Anna.
Hold on. All right. Well, we're out of time, Dirk. I got to get with my family and
That's
head over
because
to
I
get some
talk too
breakfast.
much.
Oh, that's okay. We had a lot to talk about. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while. So I'm really glad that we can have you on. Again, like I told Fletcher, same thing. You guys are welcome back anytime. Love to have you
Okay,
sometime in the future.
I'd love to come back.
Excellent. For anybody online, we want to thank you for tuning in to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. You can find our videos on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and I promise you, by the time you listen to this or watch this video, this will be on Spotify. Feel free to reach out to us at scholarsofuma, that's UMA, @gmail.com. Let us know who you'd like to see on our podcast next or in the future, any questions you want to ask future guests, and feel free to send us videos, pictures that are fantasy and sci-fi related. Everybody have a great rest of the day. Dirk, thank you so much. I will talk to you
Thank
later on
you.
Twitter, my friend. Have a good rest of the day.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.